Before we begin, a necessary disclaimer. This content is for educational purposes and should not be considered legal advice. The information is accurate as of 2026, but always remember that official government rules and your specific circumstances are what ultimately matter.
Welcome! In this explainer, we're going to cut through the myths and get to the facts about the Canadian study permit. We'll cover how officers actually evaluate your application, which rules are non-negotiable, and how even small mistakes can have very large consequences. There's a very common belief out there, one you've probably heard, that Canada approves study permits simply because the country needs students. Let's be very clear. That belief is fundamentally incorrect, and honestly, it's the reason why so many applications end in refusal. Here is the reality. Canada doesn't approve students. It approves temporary residents. You see, immigration officers aren't trained to assess need or sympathy. They are trained, first and foremost, to assess risk. Understanding this one distinction is absolutely critical. So, getting this right is the most important step you can take. To do that, we need to think like the officer who will be reviewing your file. Every single application is measured against these three core questions. An officer must be satisfied with the answer to each one. This process isn't about how much you want to study in Canada, it's about your credibility as a potential temporary resident who will follow the rules. Okay, let's dive into the first pillar of that assessment, your finances. I'm going to be very direct here. This is the single area where the vast majority of applications fail. It is essential to get this part perfect. Canada is extremely strict when it comes to financial proof, and it's not about judging your wealth. It's about verifying that you can support yourself and focus on your studies without financial pressure. That's a key indicator of compliance. So you have to show not just a final bank balance, but a clear, traceable history of where that money originated. These are what we call fatal errors. Things like a large sum of money that suddenly appears in your account right before applying. That's an immediate red flag, and the funds will be considered unreliable. Officers are specifically trained to identify these patterns. Submitting misleading financial documents is not just a reason for refusal. Under Canadian law, it's defined as misrepresentation. This is a very serious offense that carries a severe penalty, a 5-year ban from applying to enter Canada for any reason. Now for the second critical pillar, your study plan. This isn't just about having good grades. It's about the logic and the story that your entire application tells. Let's look at this comparison. Student A has top marks, but their finances are a bit vague and their study plan isn't well explained. Student B has average marks, but their financial documents are crystal clear and traceable, and they present a logical reason for their chosen program. From a risk assessment point of view, Student B is the much stronger applicant. In the Canadian system, credibility will always outweigh credentials. Officers are trained to look for a logical academic progression. A plan that seems to go backward or sideways without a really compelling reason raises a major red flag. It suggests that the true motivation might not be education, which in their eyes increases the risk of non-compliance down the line. We need to talk more about misrepresentation because it is, without a doubt, the most serious offense in the Canadian immigration system. It's the fastest and most certain way to permanently close the door on any future in Canada. Under Canadian law, misrepresentation isn't just about providing fake documents. It also includes omitting critical information. For example, failing to disclose a previous visa refusal from any country, not just Canada, is, by definition, an act of misrepresentation. There is a dangerous myth that many applicants believe, that if you can just get the initial visa approved, any problems or inaccuracies in your file are somehow washed away. This is completely false. An initial approval does not erase fraud. Your file follows you, and it gets re-examined at every future step when you apply to extend your permit, when you apply for a work permit, and especially when you apply for permanent residence. Misrepresentation can be and often is discovered years later, and when it is, the consequences will be applied. And that brings us to our next point. The scrutiny does not stop once you arrive in Canada. Maintaining your legal status is an ongoing responsibility, and it has very serious, long-term implications. These aren't suggestions, they are the legal conditions of your study permit. Any violations, like working more hours than you're allowed or dropping out of your program, are tracked by the system. These actions will directly and negatively impact your future applications for work permits or permanent residence. You must understand this clearly.
Your actions as a student create the permanent foundation of your entire immigration history in Canada. The system is designed to reward consistent, long-term compliance. Any non-compliance during your study period will permanently weaken every future application you make.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Canada's rules are not designed to be traps. They are filters. They are designed to identify credible, compliant temporary residents. They are meant to be understood, and they are meant to be followed.